All right, let's get to the NFC and relevant playoff games. Maybe none bigger than the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. Not so much for getting into the playoffs, but playoff positioning. The Minnesota Vikings have the number one seed potentially on the line here. They need to win out, and it's not going to be easy against the Packers and against the Lions over the next 2 weeks. The 13-2 Vikings against the 11-4 Green Bay Packers. Of course, the Vikings did win their first matchup in Green Bay.
Yeah, this is classic cliche. These are real litmus test games for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they've done a really good job of winning these tight one-score games. We were talking about, is that a skill? Is that something Kevin O'Connell is able to instill in his team? You're likely to get another couple of those with these two games against Green Bay and then Detroit. The Packers are like the Ravens. They're like the Chiefs. They seem to be coming good right at the right time. Again, I think they started the run a bit earlier last season, or it was a little more conclusive, but it definitely looks like it's happening now. They were very, very good last week. Nate Tice on Twitter, a friend of the show, had a post that the Packers offense post Week 10 bye week is third in EPA per play, fourth in yards per play, fourth in explosive play rate, fourth in success rate, and their defense in the same time span is fourth in EPA per play, third in yards per play, and then eighth in both explosive play rate and success rate. This is a team that looks as good as any team in that conference right now. It just so happens that they were sufficiently bad in the first half. They were sufficiently not as impressive in the first half that they're third in their own division.
Yeah, and they were still winning a lot in the first half.
That's
right?
what I mean. Yeah, I checked myself. They weren't. It's not like they were bad. They just weren't as dominant as Detroit, certainly, and then Minnesota.
You also had Jordan Love injured in week 1.
Yeah.
When he came back, including for this matchup, when he came back for this matchup, was banged up, had a couple turnovers early. Green Bay came back late. Sometimes we diminish the late comebacks from a team when it's actually, skill. It's not just, teams are playing prevent, like it's just balancing of the game. So Green Bay's been a tough team to peg, I think, for a while. They're the Toyotathon team, Sam. Well, always better in the second half. And this is the second straight year we've seen them starting to get better and better as we head toward the playoffs.
Their only losses this season, they're 11-4, and all 4 of their losses are against 3 teams vying for the number 1 seed in the NFC, right? Like they lost, remember, the very first game of the season for them in Brazil, they lost that incredibly close game to Philadelphia where Jordan Love got hurt. They lost to the Vikings by 2 points the first time around, and then they've lost twice to the Detroit Lions. But this is an undefeated team absent games against number 1 seed contenders in the NFC.
I've been wrong a lot, as you know, but maybe the most wrong I've been was coming out of the Brazil game where I said I was unimpressed by both teams.
Yes.
The Eagles and the Packers.
That's true. Yeah.
As far as instant reactions go,
not a great takeaway.
When I was like, I'm out on both teams. I didn't say I was out, but I was like unimpressed after week 1 by both the Packers and the Eagles. And that, kind of stood strong for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And then proven wrong. The Sam Darnold narrative too. Again, a fun offseason discussion with what the Vikings do with Sam Darnold, but this will not take anything away from what he's done to this point. I've raved about him since we got through the week 3 buffer.
Right.
I've raved about Darnold since that point, when warranted. And it was, other than a game or two, far more warranted than not. Loved watching him play, loved watching him attack downfield and get all those playmakers involved. But this is a serious run right now. If you're Sam Darnold and you're vying to either be the next Vikings quarterback again next year, re-signed, or going somewhere else, you got Green Bay this week, you have Detroit week 18, then you have the playoffs. Then you're right in. Maybe you get a bye if you win both games. But got a run here for Sam Darnold, and this isn't a litmus test or anything. I think he's proven, right? He can be that guy. But yeah, he's going to have to go out there and continue to make big time throws down the field, limit some of those bad plays, make big throws under pressure. I've loved watching Darnold's development this week, but a fascinating run for a guy that has rejuvenated his career and now gets as serious of a test as you can get with these 2 division games and then the playoffs lurking right around the corner.
It's a huge game for both teams, I think. Not because it matters that much for them winning, though there's a ton on the line for Minnesota. I mean, the Vikings are absolutely in contention for the 1 seed, but they're also probably likely to get the 5 seed. Like if this doesn't go their way, they're on the road in the first week of the season versus being at home all the way through the playoffs and not having to play that first week. I mean, in terms of what's on the line, absent just getting into the playoffs, where there's a few teams fighting for that, the Vikings have as much on the line in terms of the playoffs, and Detroit does as well, than anybody. Green Bay can't get to the 1 seed. They can't win the division, so there's not as much on the line for them. But it's huge in terms of these teams being able to demonstrate, like do what the Chiefs are doing right now, right? Demonstrate that we are the class of this field. We are the 1 seed. We are favorites for the 3-peat. We are Super Bowl favorites, period. I mean, Minnesota's been fantastic. You know, they've wildly overachieved expectations. Darnold looks great. They've done a really good job of winning these 1-score games. I think it still feels a little underlying fragile. You know, I don't know that anyone is really conclusively saying that they are this dominant football team that expects to win or get to the Super Bowl. But Detroit's defense is really banged up. Like, they are vulnerable in a way they might not have been earlier in the season. Philadelphia looks really good. If Minnesota, you know, is really impressive in these final 2 games, locks up 2 wins in the 1 seed, that's a statement by them. If they lose one or both of these games and kind of just stumble their way into the postseason, I think they're less of a threat to Philadelphia. But equally, if Green Bay does the same thing, right? If they put a statement win out here against Minnesota and then they're able to win and go into the postseason with this absolute wave of momentum with the second half of the season, they become real contenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's a playoff matchup, man. I love it. It's a playoff caliber matchup. Go back to the Week 4 game. There was a lot of back and forth. I thought Darnold put the ball in harm's way a couple times, but as he's done all season, bounced back and had drives to answer, follow up on failures, and had, big time throws outside the numbers. I thought Green Bay did a nice job scheming it up a couple times, created a strip sack on Darnold. Similarly, the Vikings were forcing turnovers on Jordan Love. Again, he was coming off of his injury. Different dynamic with the teams too, where Green Bay they want to run the ball with Jacobs, spread the ball around to a plethora of playmakers. Where Minnesota, the top 3, who the top 3 are. You don't know who's going to kill you any given week,
right? Between
Jordan Jefferson, Jordan Addison, or TJ Hockenson. But that trio, as I've said, they're the best in the NFL, I think, as a trio, with Aaron Jones running the ball and Darnold running the show. So I just love this matchup. And Flores and his run defense against Josh Jacobs and the Packers. You mentioned the Packers' offensive stats and EPA and everything. Jacobs has been their workhorse throughout this season, and so finding that balance of banging their head against the wall against a good run defense, or sticking with what they want to do. I want to see what that looks like game plan wise. The big area I think for Minnesota is, can the interior of that offensive line hold up against Green Bay? That's the area where I think the Vikings and the Seahawks are similar. Like, it's a very good team top to bottom, but the one weakness, the one bullseye on that team is the interior of the offensive line. And every now and again, the Vikings run up against a team that's able to attack that group. Green Bay, I think, has the horses up front to do that. They're stronger on the edge than they are in the middle in terms of defensive line, defensive front, pass rush, all those things. But they can definitely get after that interior group. So, can they expose that group, put Sam Darnold under pressure, force him to make, low percentage plays? And he might make some of them. I mean, he did against Seattle, but that's the weakness of this team if the Packers are able to attack it, particularly Garrett Bradbury at center. I mean, he's got a PFF pass blocking grade this season under 50. He's given up 33 total pressures, which for a center is a massively high number. That's the area of vulnerability for the Vikings. And so along those lines, Edurin Cooper, can't talk about the Packers without mentioning what he's done as a rookie linebacker. Always been calling for more snaps from Cooper. He's been awesome all season, but in particular the last couple of weeks when asked to do a little bit more, he's got 4 sacks. Packers did a really nice job on the strip sack on Darnold, the way they designed their blitzes. So you're right. I think the Packers finding ways, blitzing or, their pass rush up front, trying to create some turnovers is going to be huge here. As I mentioned earlier too, this is only going head to head with Browns and Dolphins, two games in the 4 p.m. window. So
Flex
pretty
into
good, spotlight game for both teams here. 4:25 on Sunday. It's Minnesota by 1.5 at home. Where are you going to go with this one, Sam?
I'm going to go with the Packers. I think they might grab a win on the road and really shake up this picture.
Oh boy, I'm going to take Minnesota. So hold on. I got Minnesota here. Yeah, I'll take them to cover the 1.5. Harry will also take the Vikings here. Can't wait for that one though.
The Green Bay winning, by the way, keeps alive that possibility that all 3 teams in the NFC North could finish with at least 13 wins, which would be absurd. Like, it literally never happened before, but also like 13 wins is a lot. Even in a 17-game schedule, to have 3 of them come out of the same division would be nuts.
That was one thing we were kind of right about. We thought 2 divisions would be loaded, AFC North and NFC North. Not this loaded. Also thought the Bears might, sneak a few more than 4 wins. But,
right.
Man, never seen anything like this with 3 teams in one division being this good.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.